Sure, here's a detailed and heartfelt story titled The Violet That Found Its Way Home, a tale of honesty, integrity, and the power of doing what's right, even when no one is watching. The Violet That Found Its Way Home. In the quiet village of Sundarban, nestled between lush hills and slow-flowing rivers, lived a 12-year-old boy named Arjun. He was known for his kind heart, mischievous smile, and boundless curiosity. His family was humble, his father a potter, and his mother sold vegetables in the weekly market. Despite their struggles, they lived with dignity, never asking for more than they needed. One misty morning in July, Arjun set off for the forest on the outskirts of the village to collect firewood. The rains had just subsided, leaving the air fresh and the earth fragrant. Birds sang in the trees and the world felt unusually magical. As Arjun wandered deeper into the forest, something unusual caught his eye. Near a patch of wild jasmine, half buried under leaves, was a small violet-colored pouch embroidered with golden thread. It looked completely out of place. Curious, Arjun picked it up and gently untied the string. His eyes widened. Inside were several gold coins, a folded letter sealed with wax, and a small silver pendant with an engraving of a lion, something he had seen only in old stories told by the elders. His heart raced. He had never seen so much wealth in his life. His first thought was of his mother, how she worked all day to earn a few rupees, how his father's hands were cracked from shaping clay pots. This pouch could change everything. But then, something stirred inside him, a quiet voice. "This isn't yours." He stared at the pouch. He could keep it. No one had seen him. He could hide it under a loose floorboard in his hut. But the weight of the pouch in his hands felt heavier than just gold. It was the weight of a decision that would shape his soul. Arjun turned around and ran back to the village, pouch clutched tightly in his hand. He didn't go home. He went straight to the house of the village headman, a wise and respected man named Sarpanch Raghav. The old man looked surprised to see Arjun panting at his doorstep. "What brings you here, son?" Arjun held out the pouch. "I found this near the jasmine grove. I think someone lost it." Raghav opened the pouch and his eyes widened. This, this belongs to the royal inspector who passed through yesterday. He stayed overnight on his way to the northern fort. He must have dropped it in the forest." Within hours, word spread. The inspector, upon hearing the news, returned to the village. He was a stern man, used to deceit and corruption, and expected the worst. When Arjun handed the pouch back without a single coin missing, the inspector's eyes softened. "You could have kept this," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "No one would have known." Arjun looked up, his voice steady. "But I would have known." The inspector knelt and placed the silver lion pendant in Arjun's hand. "Then let this remind you of who you are. Honest people are rare. The kingdom needs boys like you." From that day forward, Arjun became a symbol of truth in Sundarban. Villagers told his story by firelight, and parents pointed to him as an example for their children. Years later, Arjun would grow to become a wise teacher, guiding hundreds with the same honesty that had once led a violet pouch back to its rightful owner. Moral: honesty is not about who sees you. It's about who you are when no one is watching. Would you like this turned into a children's illustrated story or translated into another language? Absolutely. Here's the next part of the story, continuing from where we left off. Arjun is now growing into a young man, and the values he upheld as a boy begin to shape not only his life, but his entire village. Part 2. The Voice of Truth. Years passed since Arjun had found the violet pouch in the forest. Now 17, he had grown tall and strong, with the same gentle eyes and quiet confidence that had once caught the attention of the royal inspector. He wore the silver lion pendant around his neck every day, not as a trophy, but as a reminder of the day he chose truth over temptation. Arjun had become a helper at the village school. Though he came from a poor family, his thirst for knowledge was endless. He borrowed books, asked questions, and taught younger children whatever he learned. Most importantly, he taught them honesty, not from textbooks, but from his life. One day, trouble came to Sundarban. A new merchant named Bhairav Seth arrived in the village. He was wealthy, charming, and generous. Too generous. He offered money to the villagers to start new businesses, gave loans with no interest, and promised to turn Sundarban into a modern town. At first, people rejoiced. Markets grew, money flowed. But Arjun watched carefully. Something didn't feel right. He noticed that Bhairav kept no written records of his transactions. He saw his assistants collecting signatures from illiterate villagers on blank papers. Soon, the poor who had borrowed small amounts of money were being asked to hand over their land and homes. The village was falling into quiet chaos. Arjun decided to act. He went to the Sarpanch, now old and partially blind, and explained his concerns. But without proof, the elders hesitated. Bhairav had become powerful. Questioning him openly could bring trouble. So Arjun went back to where his journey began, the forest. He remembered that the truth often hides in the shadows and reveals itself only to those who look without greed. He began investigating quietly, speaking to laborers, examining abandoned contracts in Bhairav's office, and collecting stories. Finally, he found it, a copy of a forged land deed in which a villager's thumbprint had been used to claim ownership of land Bhairav had never bought. With this evidence, Arjun returned to the Sarpanch and the villagers. They gathered in the village square. With the pendant shining on his chest, Arjun stepped forward and spoke, not with anger, but with unwavering clarity. "You came here with a smile, Bhairav Seth," he said, holding up the document. "But your kindness was a mask. You wanted to buy our silence, not build our village." Bhairav laughed at first, but when the villagers stood beside Arjun, every farmer, every elder, every mother whose home was threatened, the merchant's charm crumbled. The Sarpanch, in his last official act, declared Bhairav banished from the village. A new chapter, in the months that followed, Sundarban changed. Instead of loans, they built a village fund where every family contributed what they could. Arjun was appointed as the youngest member of the village council, and under his guidance, honesty became not just a virtue, it became the way of life. Children were taught the story of the violet that found its way home, and now they also learned of the boy who stood against gold. And though Arjun had been offered many riches and honors, he chose to stay in Sundarban, the place that had shaped him. As he once told a group of children under the old banyan tree, "Truth is like a violet hidden in the forest. You may pass it 100 times, but if you stop and search with a pure heart, you'll find it. And once you do, it will guide you forever." Would you like a part 3, perhaps when Arjun becomes a leader beyond the village, or faces a moral dilemma in the city? Or would you like this version turned into a short film script or graphic novel idea?